Welcome, folks. As always, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the East Coast. We are here to talk very briefly about the Liberian Diaspora Corporation. On today's topic, we're going to be discussing nationalism, private sector expansion. Or brace yourselves. If you're coming on the show, please help me share the show. Let's talk Liberia. Let's talk about something that's going to elevate the country. Every Saturday usually, but today I'm doing a show on Sunday because yesterday I could not really do the show. So we're going to be talking Liberia today, private sector expansion. We're going to talk briefly about nationalism, what we need to do as a society to develop. Are we just going to be fixated on the talking points that literally do not benefit the country, or are we going to find something else that perhaps elevate the country to some degree that benefits most of us? Or we're going to go to the entertainment shows where the focus is on the man costs. Is this the only thing we care about? Or we're going to actually come to a platform that talks about issues that improves the country. Once again, if you're joining me, to my brother, your VK, V, what's going on, man? How's Fall River? To everybody else that will come on the show later on, people that watch the show after the show, I'm going to say this to you. The Liberian Diaspora Corporation is alive and well. We are continuing to push to find ways to raise the $25 million that we talked about to be able to effectuate some change in Liberia. We have no choice but to continue on this path. It is okay to be on platforms across the globe and talk about Liberia. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It is okay to just sit and say nothing good will come out of Liberia. It's equally okay. This is a choice you have taken. This is a choice you've made. But I will continue to ask these questions as to whether Liberia will improve if our current posture, if our current position is to resign to a fate that we believe nothing positive can come out of Liberia. I refuse to accept that. And I believe that I've always said that we in the diaspora have a greater responsibility to shoulder some of the responsibility in Liberia through organized formation, through a way that's going to elevate the country. Like I said, if you're coming on board, please help me share the show. Let's talk Liberia. It is not the usual man-cussing show or the entertaining show where we come in and everybody feels that the issue about talking about Liberia must be geared more towards entertainment than towards the production of something that elevates the country. And I will continue to stress this point. Liberia has to be far greater than each of us. Liberia has to matter far above us. Today's topic is nationalism, private sector expansion. All brace yourselves. This is what I'll be talking about here today. I want you to join me and let's discuss Liberia. Let's continue to push the issues that are going to elevate the country. It is okay for those of us who live in another man's country, for those of us who've been fortunate to have gone to the West, to have gotten some education perhaps, or to have been in a better socioeconomic position, we have a greater responsibility to the country. And that responsibility, like I always say, is something that we cannot neglect. We must embrace that responsibility to elevate Liberia. And part of embracing that responsibility is coming together in an organized way that we ourselves can go to the country and set up shop. And like I say, always to build small-scale manufacturing in Liberia. To find a way to elevate Liberia positively in a fashion that we all can be proud of. To find a way to say to our children that we did everything humanly possible to elevate the conditions that is in Liberia currently, the conditions on which the desperate conditions on which our people live. I will start the show in less than a minute, and I will play the intro one more time so people can come on board. Let's discuss Liberia. Let's continue to talk about this country because as we turn our backs on Liberia, gradually, the country goes down the drain. How can we call ourselves men and women, citizens of Liberia, when we, for decades, all we do is send $20 home, send $30 home. We don't do anything in an organized way to perhaps change the country. I want to invite you. Let's continue to elevate the issue about Liberia. Every Saturday, today's Sunday, the show was postponed today because of some personal reasons that I had to walk around to do some personal stuff. But we are continuing to raise the money. The Liberian Diaspora Corporation is alive and well. We will continue to push to raise this money because if we cannot raise this money, how are we going to find a way to change the conditions of Liberia? How? I'll ask this question because this is a very, very pertinent question to what is unfolding in our country. Are we just going to sit and say, you know what, wrong? Liberia Bene, Liberia issue is hard to talk. Liberia issue has never been hard to talk. There's nothing in Liberia that is difficult to talk. What is wrong with Liberia is our refusal to organize better, to go to the country and try to effectuate some change in the country that's going to elevate the country. Liberia is not going to develop on her own or by some magic. No country is developed that way. Every single society we see today, the societies that we run to, they were organized, they got organized. The government got involved in a positive way. They used subsidies, they used formation, they found the best and brightest minds to come back to the country to organize better so we can elevate our country through the industry. So we can elevate our country, not just through the regular organization, but in a way that is going to promote employment in our country. As always, once again, we're about to start the show. My name is Ansu Opadwalu, and as always, I'm broadcasting here from the great state of Massachusetts. And once again, the topic today is nationalism, private sector expansion, or brace yourselves. Look, we have this misconception, or I don't know why we feel that people will always come to rescue us in Liberia. I don't know whether you guys are following the global news or you're following the protectionist policies that's being implemented across the globe. As these countries from across the globe cannot produce enough food to feed their population, they are going to stop the exportation of food out of their country to go feed other peoples. Are we making preparation for that? The topic today, I want to stress the issue of nationalism. And sometimes we take it for granted. People will say, well, Dwalu, Liberia is a lost cause. Liberia is somewhere I really don't worry about anymore because this country is going nowhere. If we resign to this fate, especially those of us who have been very fortunate to have come to a Western location, if we continue to turn our backs on Liberia, what are we going to say to our children? Nationalism. Where is your loyalty to the country? Where is our loyalty to Liberia? Or do we even think about the loyalty to Liberia? Do we think the issue of loyalty is not something we should worry about? Liberia does not deserve loyalty. Where is your pride in yourself? Nationalism. And nationalism is not something we get up in the money and we pledge allegiance to the Republic of Liberia. It goes far beyond that. It's talk about putting the country first in literally everything that we do. And sometimes it's extremely difficult to tell a man that is in dire straits, a man that in abject poverty about nationalism. The message is not substantially for them. My message is those of us who have been fortunate to have come to a Western country, that we are positioned, we are no longer on the primal level where we are worried about food, clothing, and shelter. We now have begun the self-actualization process. How are we looking back to Liberia? This is my focus. The Liberian diaspora responsibility to the country must be substantial. We don't look to Liberia. We come here to the West, I am included, all of us, and we forget Liberia, forgetting about the dire circumstances under which our people live. Do we think about our national identity? Or are we only Liberian when it suits us? When we hold government position and we are living the cushion lifestyle at the expense of the people out of River G County that we have forgotten. At the expense of the people in Nima County that we have forgotten substantially. Where is our nationalism? If we forget Lufa County and Sano County and we don't turn back to these locations, when are we going to talk about nationalism? In fact, the term nationalism, do we even think about it in Liberia? Do we have any form of devotion to country? Devotion to country. Do we have devotion to country? Is there any devotion to country, really? And there's a question I'm asking, and I'm not just asking this question because I want to ask this question. Do we have devotion to country? I don't know why this mic is giving me problems today. I think this throw was not screwed in properly. Is there any devotion to country? Any at all? Any form of devotion to country? Or have we just substantially forgetting about Liberia and saying, you know what, wrong? I just have to fight and leave the country, fight and take my children out of this country, and that's all I'm going to care about. Anything else, I don't care about Liberia. Let me tell you something. And every time as I repeat this to us collectively, when we turn our backs on Liberia, we are turning our backs on ourselves. It is difficult to understand this concept. When you live in another man's country, you can open your fridge and food there, and you forget about the foundational levels of life where you're worrying about food, clothing, and shelter. You're no longer in Liberia. Let me tell you the reason why you came to America. Let me tell you the reason why you went to Australia or you went to most of Western Europe, where the standard of living has been upped and you are a direct beneficiary of something that another man sweat for. It is easy to forget where you come from whence we've come. I'm guilty of this. I'm not excluded from what I'm talking about here. I'm entirely guilty of this. We easy to forget Liberia when we live in the comforts of another man's country. It is easy to forget Liberia. We forget the issue of nationalism because it no longer affects us directly. But to the detriment of our brothers and sisters back home, the Liberian Diaspora Corporation had a singular goal, is to effectuate some change in the country that we champion, that we put our money together to get back to the country and say it back to people back home that you have not been forgotten, that we think about you so substantially that we decided to organize better to come to Liberia and build small-scale manufacturing here. That we are coming back here to increase the government tax base so we can build better infrastructure for our people. That we are bringing Liberian expertise back to the country so we can up the standard of living in here, our country. Remember the 4 objectives of the Liberian Diaspora Corporation. They are very simple. Simple is to make our shareholders money. If you have not bought your shares yet for the Liberian Diaspora Corporation, I encourage you to do so. We are continuing to raise the money. The target is to raise to $25 million to form a corporation here in America with direct intention to invest in Liberia. 4 objectives of the Liberian Diaspora Corporation. Number 1 is to make our shareholders money. Number 2 is to create massive amount of jobs across the country so men and women can go to work. Number 3 is to have some economic clout, economic influence in our country. Number 4 is to ensure Liberian expertise go back to the country so we can up the human capital in our country. Those are the 4 basic objectives of the Liberian Diaspora Corporation. And I believe we here in the diaspora, we owe that responsibility to our country to be able to grow the standard of living in Liberia. It is okay to talk. Look, self-determination of our people, self-determination of Liberia is not going to happen outside of we actively getting involved to understand how we can improve the standard of living in Liberia. The Indians did not develop by magic, nor did the Mexicans, or like you see right now in the Horn of Africa, you see down in Botswana, or you see the Rwandans, or you see recently the Ghanaians. They are continuing to grow their society, but we are stuck in no place. The Liberian diaspora aims to change this. But like I said, to everybody who's heard my voice, that we must play our part as Liberians in the diaspora. Hey, my brother John Payne, welcome to the show. One of the first person I believe in this dream. The first person I purchased their certificate was Mr. John Payne, John Opa Payne, my brother here, because he believed in one thing, that for Liberia to develop, we must put our money where our mouths are. And the issue here is people forget one thing. Nationalism is not just about you. It's about us making some sacrifices to effectuate some positive change in our country. Look, I say this all the time. People think I'm joking. Maybe if I were in Liberia, I said it in really. I said it under the hot sun. I already black like hell. I will be under the hot sun. I can barely eat on a very poor sanitary conditions. I'm stuck in no place because Liberia is stuck in no place. But we have been fortunate to come to America, to have gone to Europe, to have gone to Australia, wherever you are around the world. You have a duty to country for us to get the independence of our mind, the independence of our body, the independence of our soul. We must go back home in a major way. And I continue to tell Liberians what constitutes a major way. I defined it last show last Saturday, and I'll redefine what constitutes going home in a major way. Going home in a major way means we organizing better. We find our best and brightest here, not necessarily to go for political reasons or to go occupy government jobs, but to go to the country and build small scale manufacturing in our country. To be able to go back home and start a large scale fishing industry, to start a massive agro business in the country. It takes money, folks, for us to be able to do this, for us to be able to bring Liberian diaspora home. I'm watching social media today across Liberia, across America, rather, graduation everywhere. Young Liberians are graduating from degrees to bachelor's all the way to PhD. They are graduating in droves. The expertise stays here. The Liberian Diaspora Corporation intends to change this, to take that expertise back to Liberia in a major way. I can look to my brother William Porter here and say, listen, Mr. Porter, let's do this. You have a degree in chemical engineering. We have set up a chemical operation in Liberia to do some testing in our facility. We need you to come home. We are going to pay you comparable wage for you to come to our beloved Liberia and help elevate this country. We sit here. We die here. But Liberia dies the greatest because we've done nothing to elevate our country. Will we allow Liberia to just die? Don't tell me about government. My issue is private sector development. The government has a role to play. And trust me, I'm doing my part. I'm reaching to anybody that would listen to me so we can help elevate the Liberian Diaspora Corporation. 100,000 of us in the diaspora, 200,000, I don't know, between 200 to 500,000 Liberians living in the diaspora. 30,000 people is my target. Each person $1,000, that's $30 million. We go, we build a small scale manufacturer. This is not charity. This is not free money. This is money that we can build a corporation to elevate our society. I will not be a clown. People say, oh, Mr. Dwalu, people will not come to the show if you are not talking about man and woman business, if you're not talking about man cost, if you're not talking politics. I understand this. But let me ask you a question. Has this taken us towards the direction that we want to transform the country? Those things that you want because it gave you instant gratification. It gave you this instantaneous high about, oh, they're talking about somebody's wife, somebody brought somebody to America and the person left there. This is not just entertainment. Liberia cannot be treated as simply for entertainment. We must grow the massive agro business in the country that exports to Western countries so we can begin to grow Liberian millionaires. These millionaires will develop our society. These millionaires are going to develop sanitation. This is the nationalism that I'm talking about. These millionaires are going to go ahead and develop proper adequate letting across our country. This is nationalism, devotion to the country, self-determination has to be made. And it costs money to do this. It costs money to raise money. If you're listening, if you will listen to this, I want you to pass a message along that the Liberian Diaspora Corporation is alive and well. And we must raise this money. Our first event here is coming up in the state of Massachusetts. You go to Eventbrite, you type in the Liberian Diaspora Corporation, you can reserve your ticket. We will come and we will bring the message to you because Liberia, we must breathe life back into Liberia, not for us, but for all the posterity, for our children, that we did everything nationalistically to elevate our country so our children can inherit a better Liberia than we did. It costs money to do this, folks. But together, if we come together with one fist, we can ensure we no longer become exploited by foreigners that come to the country, take the money away from Liberia. We cannot compete if we don't come together to raise this money, to set up small-scale manufacturing in the country, we cannot compete. We will be outcompeted by the Arabs, by the Indians that are coming to the country because we are now organized better. And I said this to the government repeatedly. Subsidies. Build the mega corporations out of Japan. Yes, government subsidies did this. Here in America, you name one corporation that did not get loan or subsidized loan to the government subsidy, to the government fiscal policies in order to grow those industry across America so America can grow. We reached out to the government. We need seed money to raise this money. I cannot raise this money part-time. We can refund the government back the money if the money is raised. But it costs money to raise money, y'all. It costs money to raise money. Nationalism cannot come to full bear if we don't find Liberia best and brightest to organize them better so they can go to the country so we can create small-scale manufacturing in Bapuru County. So we can go to Grand Cape County and create a large-scale fishing industry. We can go into Bone County and create a massive agro business. The package cassava lee and kitty to make shovels and wheelbarrow in our country to put men to work. This is the aim of the Liberian Diaspora Corporation, something that we control as Liberians. We must control the destiny of our own country. If we are going to scream self-determination, how can we self-determine if we are poor? How can we self-determine if we're disorganized? How can we be devoted to country if we can barely find food to eat? The responsibility for the elevation of Liberia rests squarely on the shoulders of the sons and daughters of Liberia. Nobody will develop Liberia but us. If we continue to believe that through some miracle, that Jehovah God will descend from the heavens to transform Liberia, it's not going to happen. We ourselves must develop this country. But to develop this country, we must organize. We must organize as a one unit. We must find Liberia best and brightest. We must bring them together to build industry, to develop high-level entrepreneurs across our country so they can develop our country, to take highly skilled Liberians from across the globe, to come back into Liberia to become professors, to become engineers, to become social workers and teachers, to become agriculturalists, to come to the country, to bring skills back to our society. And the only way we can do this is through the cooperation. The government has a tremendous role to play. We all know for almost 180 years, the government has not played that part substantially. There's a reason why, and I've determined that because the private sector does not exist to push the government in making sure the government does that. This is what I want economic influence in my country. This is why I want that clout, that financial clout, that economic clout, that persuasion of my people in a direction that elevates the society, that forces judges to rule right, that forces the president to stand by the oath of office that he or she has taken to elevate our country, to serve the republic. This is an obligation that we cannot neglect as Liberians in the diaspora. We have a duty to country. Our obligation to Liberia outweighs everything else that you can think about. Yes, it outweighs everything. For your family to be okay, Liberia must be okay. For you to be okay, Liberia must be okay. We are in the bosom of Liberia, yet and still that very bosom is disorganized because Liberians do not control our country. We are like peasants in Liberia, and the only way we can change this, we have to organize better. The Liberian Diaspora Corporation must do this, and I need you to join me from across America. I need you to join me to raise the $25 million so we can build small-scale manufacturing in Liberia to put men to work. If we do not put Liberian men and women to work, our country remains as is. I will continue to say this. Those of you who know who I am, you know how I champion this administration. And I want to thank the president for some of the road construction across our country. I love that this is happening. But I will say this, and I repeat this a million times. President Bwakai can build whatever road he wants to build. If we do not put these men to work, his administration will be considered a failure. Let me repeat this and say this very slowly. If we do not do the bread and butter things that will elevate the Liberian family, if we do not keep the Liberian family together to do job creation, our people will not see the successes of this administration. This administration cannot fail, because if this administration fails, we all fail. And Liberia fails the greatest because our people will remain at this very primal level because we have not elevated the country. Those of us, we have been put in a privileged position. Those of us. How can we say we are Liberian citizens or we are nationalistic in any respect if we are not doing anything to elevate or protect the sovereignty of our society? We have the Europeans, the Chinese, they're fishing in our waters while we are lacking protein in Morovia. The Spaniards, they're bringing their ship into our waters, taking our crawfish, taking our shrimp, and selling it while we are not a direct beneficiary of this. By buying large vessels through the Liberian Diaspora Corporation, we can fish in our own waters and establish our own fishing industry to put Liberian men and women to work. This is not going to be done overnight. This can only be done through the corporation, through an organized committee, through organizing our lot, organizing our resources, and channeling these resources to elevate Zwedru. To go into Tucson and say, listen, we will build industry here. To go into Sesto and go into Barclayville and go into Lexington and take full control of our country. To go into Robertsport and Bapaloo City, to go into Monserrato and say to our people that we will build industry here and we will create a Liberian millionaires that will protect our shores, that will protect our sovereignty, so we can create local Liberian millionaire. This is the kind of nationalism that I'm talking about. Because if we do not do this, we remain poor, indigent, we remain sick, we will die sooner. Like you see in our society, our life expectancy continue to fall because we are not doing anything that elevates the country. The dissolution of the Liberian family bothers me every single time when I think about it. To grow Liberian industry, we must protect the Liberian family. And to protect the Liberian family, we must give Liberian men and women jobs. And those jobs must be permanent jobs. Look, the government does not have the capacity to employ more than 40,000 people. The expansionary policy that the government must be employed must come from the private sector. To grow government tax base, the government must be an active participant in the growth of the private sector so it can expand the government tax base. This is why we come and say, listen, it costs money to raise money. Look, those of you in the diaspora, you must join me so we can devote our lives to the elevation of Liberia. This is nationalism. You must join me to elevate self-determination. This is nationalism. The independence of our mind, body, and soul and determine how we live is nationalism, but we must nurture this nationalism through collective effort. How are we going to do this? I want you to visit our website, www.liberiandiasporaequityfund.com, and read the page. We must raise this $25 million. You purchase your share. We will send you your certificate. We will document this. And we will say to you, thank you for joining us to find a way to start small-scale manufacturing in Liberia, to find a way to start a large-scale fishing industry in our country that we control, that can put 3, 4, 5,000 men to work, to start a large-scale cassava consolidation business for exports, to build new piers that we can bring our own ship into the country and take our goods to market, to the Western market, or to any other market for that matter. We must have access. We must control imports and exports to our country. This can only be done through the private enterprise to be able to expand the government tax base so we can build better infrastructure in our country. This cannot be done by one person. We must birth a new political movement. And our political movement must be private sector expansion, not to take over government, but to take over the controls of our country through enterprise, the controls of our country through ingenuity, the controls of our country through collaborative effort, the controls of our country through expansionary policy that are going to ensure that in Bapuru County, women are going to work. To ensure our agricultural divisions across the country are being expanded for self-determination and self-sufficiency. This is the aim of the cooperation, but we must organize this together, collectively. I must bring on board Liberian experts so we can begin to grow industry in the country. Mr. President, every chance that I get, I will continue to re-echo what I've already presented to you, sir. To raise money, sir, it costs money. We will continue to ask for seed money because these people must leave their jobs and commit to the raising of this money and commit to the elevation of Liberia. And the only way they can do this is to make this the full-time job. It will take 1 year to raise this $25 million. This is doable. It will take a lot of effort. We need a little bit of help. We marvel at the Japanese and the giant corporations, Toyota, the South Korean Samsung, the American and the Amazons, the Apples, these giant corporations. Guess what? The government play a crucial role in the beginning stages of these corporations. The corporations now that pay billions of dollars in taxes to their respective governments, their governments initially funded to do different austerity measures, to do different fiscal policies, to do infusing money through the banks so the corporations can get loans to be able to birth new industry, to put men and women to work. This is what we are asking the government to do. Let's expand this public-private partnership to grow Liberian industry, to put men to work. Our obligation to our republic will not be served if we do not raise the money to be able to build Liberian industry. To build Liberian industry, we must find our best and brightest minds. And these minds must be brought back to Liberia to become school teachers so we can build new boarding schools for our children, even if they are private. So we can build new enlightenment to our society. Liberia will not grow if our brightest minds do not come home to nurture her, to breathe life back into Liberia. We must bring home us. This is not a suggestion that the people back home do not have equal capabilities. This is not what I'm suggesting. But what I'm suggesting here, people back home do not have similar opportunities that we've been given here in the West. We have tremendous opportunities that we have enjoyed, going to the finest universities. How can we translate those skills back into our country? Not necessarily through government job, but through expanding the private sector so Liberia can begin to grow. Our government must play a crucial role in bringing us home. President Bwaka, you promise us. You promise us here in Providence. You promise us in Minnesota. You promise us in Philadelphia that the Liberian diaspora will be an active participant through your administration. Please help us, help you elevate our country. Help us help you. Bring job home to our people. Help us help our country to be taken from this dungeon of despair and disgrace of being called a third world country or S-hole country. This has to change, Mr. President. But it will take devotion to country. Total devotion to country. And that devotion cannot be done in isolation. It must be done in the open. We must come home in a major way. And that major way constitutes coming home with industry. Coming home to building the Liberian Diaspora Hospital. Coming home to building the Liberian Diaspora University. This is the dream of the Liberian Diaspora Corporation. Coming home to building a wheelbarrow factory. To building a shovel factory that put men to work. To build a garment factory, to build a new kind of engineering agency, to be able to build our own roads ourselves, to build an electrical division, to be able to expand the Liberian Electricity Corporation, to be able to ensure we get proper sanitation through different industry. The Liberian Diaspora Corporation aims to do this, Mr. President, but it costs money to raise money. And all we need is a little bit of help from our government to bring us home. We will raise our own money, but it just costs money to raise money. How can we get the message to the president that this public private partnership that our president spoke about during the campaign here in America, how can we bring this to full bear to our country? Liberia cries not because she does not have sons and daughters who are not capable to transform the country. It's because those sons and daughters are not in the position to do it. We want to put them in that position. The corporation can do this. The corporation can put Liberians in a position to develop their country through the ingenuity, to the collaborative effort, to the thinking outside the box. In fact, let's destroy the box. Let's think freely. Let's start new carpentry industry, new wooding industry. How can we expand our society? This is what the corporation aims to do. Mr. President, we will continue to bring this message to Liberians across the diaspora. I have been speaking now, approaching 2.5 months. The money is being raised, but the money is being raised very slowly. We must raise this $25 million to set up Liberian industry. If we are going to compete, in our own country against the people that are having controls of Liberian industry, we must come with the resources to be able to compete, and we can raise those resources. I'm going to ask Liberians that are listening to me to understand one thing. You must join this effort. The Liberian Diaspora Corporation must be joined by you so we can raise the $25 million. A share costs $100. Our goal is to make sure every single Liberians in the diaspora, even back home, can purchase a minimum of 10 shares. That's $1,000. The goal is of the maybe 300,000 Liberians that are scattered all over the diaspora, is for each of you. We just need 30,000 of those people to be able to raise between $25 to $30 million to set up this corporation. The corporation is registered, it's prepared, everything is ready. We've begun raising the money. But we need you to join us so we can expand the operations in Liberia, so we can put men and women to work, so we can give men dignity, so we can keep the Liberian family together, so we can strengthen our communities across the country. I want you that are in Liberia, look around your communities. Trust me, it can get 1,000 times better. But we have resigned to this falsehood that this is how it's supposed to be, that this is Liberia. We accept this. Let me tell you something. When you've been given an opportunity to travel, it's for you to see the good things that you've seen, the new institutions that you have experienced, and how to go back home to improve those local institutions so Liberia can begin to grow. I published a paper many years ago. Anybody can Google the paper. It's called Institutional Governance is the Only Hope for Liberia. And as we build the institution, the private sector forced the institutions to be strengthened. But we don't have any major private sector in Liberia that will force government to adhere to the guidelines that will strengthen our democracy. How do we change this? It's by organizing through collaborative efforts across the diaspora to be able to come home and say, listen, our nationalism is not just going to be in pride and loyalty. Our nationalism is not just going to be our identity. Our nationalism is not just going to be about devotion to country. Our nationalism is going to push to develop Liberian industry that is controlled by Liberia. We must develop Liberian local millionaires to be able to develop their own local enclaves in Zwedru, their own locality up in Ban and up in Saniquote and up in Ganta. We must develop the local millionaire to the industry. And those millionaires can now go into rubber sports. They can go into Bapuru City, into Topman Burr. They can go into my beloved Buchanan and begin to build industry and expand Liberian enterprise. This is the only way. We must control our country. We must become the job creators that shape the direction of our society. And the only way we can do this is to organize better. Are we organizing better to improve Liberia? The corporation aims to organize better. Remember, the Liberian Diaspora Organization has four basic objectives. This corporation aims primarily to make our shareholders money. Yes, we want to make them millionaires so they can be able to improve their country. Number two is to create thousands amount of jobs across the country so Liberian men and women can go to work with dignity. Number three is to make sure we have economic influence in our country to determine the direction of our society. Number four is to get Liberian expertise back to the country so we can begin to develop expand the human capital of our society, to improve our universities, to build new universities, to ensure these placebos that are masquerading as drugs in our society, we can develop new testing labs in our country, private enterprise. This is the aim of the corporation. But I will say this to you, I cannot do this alone. You must join me. You must join me, Asiva Tupa and Fatima bin Nasralif. You must join us. And everybody who's bought shares, hundreds of Liberians are already bought shares. And I need you to join us. Like I said, if you're anywhere on the East Coast, if you want to join us on the 31st of May, you can go to Eventbrite. We will be having our first in-person presentation talking about private enterprise and the expansion of Liberian industry. Look, A is going away. Global A. The issue of international relations is being redefined. Are we positioning ourselves so we do not become a pawn in this brutal game of international relations? We must develop our own within, internally. And we must start now, because if we are behind the ball, behind the curve, we will be continuing to be left behind. People will eat our lunch because we are not in the position to say no. We will take anything. We'll become like a cassava leaf country, begging, when we are literally one of the richest countries on earth, but we are not organized better to make sure our resources benefit Liberia and Liberian industry. We are thinking about the long game, the very long game. The long game has to be built. You must build a foundation. This is the long game. The long game is to get Liberian expertise back to the country so they can take the positions across the country to make sure we are fully fortified economically. This is the long game. This long game, we all must be part of this long game. Look, I will tell you a story. It's an analogy. Some of you guys have heard this analogy before, but if you've never heard this analogy, I'm going to say this to you. You're walking by the banks of a river, and you see a bunch of babies in the river. The babies are drowning, and this man jump in, but you are still standing on the bank of the river. And the man's trying to save babies. And the man tells you, say, listen, my man, why are you standing there? Help me. And the man, he doesn't say anything. He walks up river where the babies are coming from. He starts walking up river. And he said, the man is very weak. He can help me save these babies. But what this man with the long game is doing, he's going up river to the source of where these babies are being dumped. This guy that's helping the babies, he's playing the short game. He's not doing anything bad. He's trying to save babies. But this guy is trying to save more babies by going upriver to stop where the babies are being dumped into the river before they drown. So it looks as though this person is playing the long game, is doing nothing. He's going upriver. It takes some time. Yes, some babies will die. And this is part of the formation of the long game. Some babies are going to die. The guy that's saving the baby, he's playing the short game. Yes, he's saving some baby, but the baby will keep coming. But if you go upriver and you stop the dumping of baby into the river where the babies are going to drown, you're going to stop permanently the killing of babies across that river. This is what the Liberian Diaspora Corporation is going to do. So as we talk, people say, oh man, what I want to do, we're trying to play the long game. We're not trying to save one babies. We're trying to save all babies. But I need you to join me so we can go upriver and stop the chaos that is endangering the future of our children in Liberia. And the only way we can do this is through organization. It's through organization and through the formation of the kind of entities across the country that's going to protect our communities and keep the Liberian family together. Liberian men must go to work in Liberia. One of the responsibilities that we've neglected substantially here in the West is this, that we don't look back to Liberia substantially. Look, I'm not talking about you sending $20 home to your children or $100 or $200 to pay their school fees. This is great. This is a short game. This is good. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm talking about is to create industries in the country where you don't have to send money home anymore, where you can actually be home, and then we can improve the standard of living through our own ingenuity. I'm talking about the permanence of the preservation of the Liberian culture and traditions in of our country that we control. This is the long game. The corporation is playing the long game. I don't want you to send money home in the long term. I want you to generate the money locally. And that way we can expand our industry. We can control our country. We can educate our own country, our own children in our own country. This is the long game that I'm talking about. The corporation is asking you to join me to play the long game. Don't save the babies downriver. Save them upriver. And stop the dumping of babies into the river. This is the analogy. But in order to play this long game, we must build the foundation. And part of building that foundation is building the Liberian Diaspora Corporation so we can go home and develop Liberian industry. We cannot develop those industry if we don't pull our resources. I will continue to say to young Liberians, to all Liberians, all across here in America, in Australia, in Europe, that you must join this effort, that we can build Liberian industry, raise the money here in the West, organize, set up the boards, find Liberia best and brightest minds. We can go to the country and start large-scale rice production. We build the industry, we build the factory, we build the processing facility. Look, Mr. President, it is before your desk. We must get on the road. The money is not being raised fast enough. The money continues to come in. It's not being raised fast enough, Mr. President. You've heard what I said last week. We had lunch. This corporation must come home. Imagine a people that have been endowed by Jehovah God himself with literally every single resource that can make millions of Liberians rich, wealthy, and live a comfortable life, yet and still we have nothing. The corporation must be helped with seed money to be able to raise this money. We must get on the road, Mr. President. And Liberian in the diaspora will continue to remind you that we have a duty that is far greater than ourselves. And our duty is to look back to Liberia, not just to your own family where you send a little bit of money home, which is a good thing, by the way. It is something that we have to build large-scale manufacturing eventually into the country. This is what the corporation must do. Is to give our people confidence again that this inferiority complex that has literally crippled our society, where we believe we cannot rise to the occasion. We must change this collectively. One person can do. We must change this, all of us. And how do we change this? By first, putting our resources. Second, organizing better. Third, strategizing. Fourth, implementing that strategy in Liberia. 5, controlling the strategy. 6, making sure the strategy bears fruit. 7, maintaining that strategy and growing the strategy. 8. That's how we grow industry in Liberia. The corporation goal is simple. I'm about to leave you. Every Saturday at 8 p.m., I had to do it today on Sunday because Mother's Day was yesterday. Got to take care of the wife, so we got to do what we got to do. But I will say this among people, and I will continue to say that we cannot forget about Liberia. Liberia needs us so desperately. Those of us who have been so blessed to have come to a Western country, you have a duty bequeathed to you by Jehovah God himself, by our ancestors, to look back to Liberia, to help breathe life back into our country, to help transform. Yeah, it's a duty. Trust me, we cannot neglect it. To help transform Tutota, that all responsibility. To help transform San Equally. and Ban, and Lac, and Folesville, and my beloved Buchanan. We must transform that society. Look, let me ask you guys a question before I leave you. Now, what thing we would say to our children? This is the quintessential question. What thing we say to our children? That we truly did enough, that we did everything we had to do to transform Liberia? Can we honestly say that to our children? That we did everything humanly possible to transform Liberia? I don't think we can say that. I don't think we've done everything we humanly possible. I think we neglected this responsibility in a substantial way. And it is not too late for us to still come together. And I won't share, you must buy. You must join this effort to breathe life. Life that creates jobs in Liberia. Life that make our shareholders money. Life that gives us economic clout in the country, economic influence. Life that get Liberian expertise to come back to the country to become the new school teachers, to expand Liberian industry, to become the new university professors and the new engineers and the new lawyers and the people that is going to transform their own country, that live amongst their people, so we can build the Liberian family, so we can strengthen the Liberian community, so we can have better representatives and better senators. Because as we improve the standards of our community, we can pick from a better pool of representatives and senators. This must be done in the private sector. Our government officials are a reflection of us. In order to up that standard, we must transform the way things are done in Liberia. And this can only be done in the private sector. As I'm about to close, I want to remind you of this. We are playing the long game. We are not trying to save the babies downriver. It is important that the babies are saved downriver, by the way. It's a short game. But we must go upriver, where the babies are being dumped, and stop the dumping of the babies in the river so they cannot drown. It is the long game. Because if we stop the exploitation of our resources of the country, and Liberians control the mining, the paving of our roads, the expanding of our water systems, the new engineers, the reteaching of the university students, and the organizing of our minds in a way that control Liberian resources, we begin to groom Liberian millionaires across our country. We can begin to expand the government tax base. The government will have more money at this point to begin to build better infrastructure. We can monitor corruption better because we're pulling from a better pool of individuals that will transform our country. I want you to always remember, nationalism, it is the soul of a republic. It is a duty that we cannot neglect. For so long, we have neglected this responsibility as Liberians. We must turn back to our duty. Our duty to the lifting of our republic. The duty of those of us who have been in a very privileged position to have gotten to know something. Remember, I remind you every single day, those of us who have gotten the privilege to know better, we have a duty and an obligation to do better. Are we doing better? You must join me. You must join the Liberian Diaspora Corporation so we can find a way to transform Liberia. As always, my name is Ansu Opadwalu, and I want you to always think Liberia. I want you to love our beloved Liberia, and I want all to call a coup, a cooperative, to build Liberia, to build Liberian industry, so we can control our own destiny, self-determination, so we can have the option to determine how we become as a people, so we can maintain our culture, our traditions, in a fashion that we can turn it over to our children and preserve Liberia in her purest form. I need you to join me to do this. Liberia is crying to her children. My people, are we going to forsake this country? I said, no, we cannot. We must not. Because who will we become? What will we say to our children? It was a pleasure always. To all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. And thank you for what you do for your families, for your mothers. The Liberian Diaspora Corporation extends happy Mother Day to everybody out there. Once again, my name is Ensu Opadwalu, and it was a pleasure as always.